West Denver. Sleep deprived and heavily caffeinated.
All right, let's do this then.
This is the Jeff and Bill Show.
I don't agree with that.
They don't always agree, but hey, at least they have coffee.
Coffee.
And each other.
I love you, man.
God help us.
I want to bless him. We need all the help we can get.
Now here's Jeff Hunt and Bill Thorpe. The Jeff and Bill Show on News Talk 710 KNUS.
8 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Tuesday, September 30th, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned in to the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Immigrant families now leaving Colorado, returning to Mexico as work dries up. Interesting story in CBS 4 as they talk with a family, and what this guy did for a living might give you a little moment of pause to see what was happening here in Colorado. Now is time for news and comment with Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Hey, good Tuesday morning, 52 and sunny in Denver, expecting a high of 78 today. This portion of the news, sponsored by Pastor Camp Heating and Air Conditioning at 303-777-1234 to learn more about special savings opportunities on Lennox equipment. Our top story.
If there is a shutdown, how many federal workers do you plan to lay off?
Well, we may do a lot, and that's only because of the Democrats.
Could be a government shutdown tonight at midnight. DJT this morning.
And as you know, they want to be able to take care of people that have come into our country illegally, and no system can handle that. And so we're totally opposed on that. But we can't take it. We just can't do it. I'd love to do everybody. I'd love to do the whole world. But our country can't handle people that come into our country illegally. And they want to give them full health care benefits. They want to open the wall again. Can you believe it? I can't even believe it. They want to open the wall. They haven't taken away boys playing in women's sports. They haven't done that. Men playing in women's sports. It's like they don't change. They lost an election in a landslide, and they don't change.
Yep. DJT was headed to an unprecedented gathering of U.S. military commanders this morning. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth spoke last hour, and then this is DJT before he went to the event.
This time. So I'm going over. I'm going to be meeting with generals and with admirals and with leaders. And if I don't like somebody, I'm going to fire him right on the spot.
And then, so he arrived, and then he hit the stage.
Thank you very much, Pete. Great job you're doing, too. Fantastic job. I've never walked into a room so silent before. This is very... Oh, don't laugh. Don't laugh. You're not allowed to do that. You know what? Just have a good time. And if you want to applaud, you applaud. And if you want to do anything you want, you can do anything you want. And if you don't like what I'm saying, you can leave the room. Of course, there goes your rank, there goes your future. But you just feel nice and loose, okay? Because we're all on the same team. And
so DJT said this is celebratory, and then he talked about signing commissions and how important it is to do it in person, you know, with him actually signing it and not using the auto pen.
I always think to myself, how can you have an auto pen sign this? It's just so disrespectful. To me, it's just totally disrespectful. And it turned out that almost everything he did was signed by auto pen, except for when he gave his son, Hunter, pardon. He signed that one. And that's actually the worst signature I've ever seen. That was the bad. The auto pen looks much better. But as leaders, our commitment to every patriot who put on the uniform is to ensure that American military remains the most lethal and dominant on the planet.
And he continues to talk to the generals and admirals right now. The father of the...
I got a question. Got a question here in the back of the room. Now, again, I am not the sharpest spoon in the drawer, but why is this on TV, these speeches? And the reason I ask...
Entertainment.
Yeah, but the reason I ask is this.
Because they don't care about NFL fans.
No, I understand that, but here's the reason I ask. Here's the reason I ask.
Yes.
Those commanders that we took away from their bases around the world,
yeah,
could have sat in their office and watched this on television.
No. They need to hear it directly from the horse's mouth, so to speak.
They can on the television.
No. Face
on
to
the
face.
television.
We are changing things. No more fat generals.
It's on the television.
Press the flesh.
And this is the reason that I ask. I understand the idea, and again, I understand that I'm offering a critique that may not necessarily be fair. I understand that. But this is the issue that I've got. We were just talking last hour about a government shutdown, about, budgets and money and stuff. We flew those commanders and their senior staff.
Whipping them into shape.
Here. And no, but that's an expense. And again, whip them into shape. This is supposed to be a nice
we're
thing
getting
here.
Focused here, people. This is a great use of money.
This is a stupid use of money.
No,
this is a meeting that could have been an email.
Message to the rest of the world also.
Here's
100%.
the thing. Here's the thing. Yes, it can be a message to the rest of the world. Those generals don't have to be in the room if you're running it on television. That's the issue, the logistics. The logistics of bringing them all into this location and then running it on TV where they could have sat in their office and watched it is
no
stupid.
Problem if he flew them all in for some DEI training. You'd go, look, we're being so enlightened.
No.
We got them all together. They're all going to be focused in on
I would have said that's stupid. No, I would have said
which restrooms we can all use.
No, I would have said
this is clarity. This is returning the military to the fighting force it needs to be.
This is what I would have said. Despite all the words you just placed in my mouth, I would have said if they were coming in for the DEI stuff, this is dumb. A lot of us take remote training that is mandated, yes, by this company here.
We are
that
not
I have
trained
done.
killers.
But hang on a second.
Killers together.
I have done that. Again, it's again, that's not the point. Your point was the idea of them coming in and training for DEI that somehow I would react differently.
Oh, you'd love that.
And the issue is, no. At some point, I'm going to get to answer, okay? Rather than you answering for me. At some point here in this morning, I get to answer the question you've posed to me rather than you answering the question you posed to me. The answer is I would be bitching and moaning just as much as I am now because I hate the idea of meetings that could have been an email. If they're going to do DEI training, that is a module that can be rolled out electronically through a computer. You don't need to get everybody into a giant room because I've been in a giant room and done the stupid trainings, and that's a freaking waste of time. Just like this is. If you put the speech on TV, I don't have to be in the room. This is a waste of time and a waste of money.
When your boss calls you in, says it's all hands on deck, get in the room, we're having a serious conversation, you push it to another level. This is real leadership. Blake?
Morale, and he's the commander-in-chief, and there is nothing more important than these people.
When history's all said and done, what Obama did to this military, the fundamental transformation that you saw under the Obama administration.
If only he would have brought them into one big room to talk to them, it would all been good. If only he could have just brought them all into one room.
It's all ending right now.
Oh, it would have been great.
Beautiful.
If he just would have brought them into one room, it would have all been fantastic. Yes, that's the only way that we can communicate and to deliver our message is by gathering them all in a room and then putting it on television. You could have watched it sitting in your office at home.
It's going to make them go run after this, too. No more fat generals.
The irony of Captain Big Mac in talking about that. Okay, that's good. Alrighty, Mr. President McCheese.
A lot of those generals eat Big Macs. Come on. I love it. I appreciate your points, and I still think it was important and really almost vital to do it. And it's a morale
watched
thing.
On TV.
Hey, speaking of camaraderie and teamwork, Monday Night Football last night at Mile High.
On 3rd down and 2, Nix, end zone, Sutton. He's got it. Touchdown, Denver. What a catch.
Yeah, what a throw. Bo Nix ran for a touchdown and threw for 326 yards and 2 touchdowns to lead the Broncos to a 28-3 victory over the Bengals. J.K. Dobbins rushed for 101 yards. That's the Broncos' first 100-yard rusher in 38 outings. R.J. Harvey had 98 yards. Broncos 2-2. Head coach Sean Payton.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of guys stepped up underneath. They played some soft zone. He did a really good job getting through his progressions.
Talking Bo Nix.
Man, 4, 5, 6 times where the coverage got deep, and right away, he knew where his underneath flare control was, and then more importantly, we did a good job of advancing. We converted a number of first downs.
Yep. Dolphins ground the Jets, and Aurora's own Mike McDaniel, head coach of the Dolphins, survives another week. A teen is facing charges after allegedly bringing a gun to Mountain Range High School in Westminster. The student reportedly brought the gun onto campus Friday after the other students had gone home for the day. Investigators say the teen was contacted by the school resource officer, admitted to having the gun, and was taken into custody. Police have not identified any threatening statements or activities directed at the school. Part two of, let's make that part three. I'm sorry, I forgot what time it is. Jason Whitlock hates that Bad Bunny will be the Super Bowl halftime entertainment. I'm right there with him. He wants to boycott the Super Bowl. Let's go.
The National Football League is going to put on a halftime drag show. I can't do it. And I'm telling you, I love football, but I fear God more than I love football. They're grooming our babies. We're going to pay a price for this.
Amen. 51 in Thornton, 50 in Centennial, 52 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Beautiful weather to end September, and the first couple of days of October look pretty good as well. Mostly sunny to partly sunny. Temperatures in the upper 70s, lows tonight near 50, and highs 70s to the lower 80s for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Slight chance of an isolated shower or two today, likely dry Wednesday and Thursday. Weather's a service of L&L Heating and Air Conditioning. For quick, trustworthy, and dependable service, call L&L Heating and Air Conditioning at 720-851-1691. Visit them online at bestdenverhvac.com. You'll be comfortable with L&L. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Immigrants heading out of Colorado. This is a fascinating story from CBS 4. Friends over there.
Jasmine Arena spoke with that family who has decided to leave the United States. Jasmine, they say life could be better for them in Mexico.
Me rising costs, limited work, and immigration fears have made it impossible to stay. They add they paid a smuggler $36,000 to bring them to the U.S. and spent the last 3 years paying that debt back. Now they're heading back with no money, just their belongings. This gray truck has things the family has worked to buy over the last 3 years: beds, his daughter's toys, and even a stove. Everything they hope would help them build a life in the U.S., now packed up to start over in Mexico.
There's no work. We're also worried about ICE. We have just made a decision to leave on our own terms.
The head of the household, who identified himself as Gerardo for this interview, says when he first arrived in the U.S., he was earning up to $1,400 a week, working as a truck driver. Now he barely makes half.
There's just not enough work and too many expenses. I used to work up to 7 days a week. Now I only work 2 to 3 days.
Gerardo and his family have dealt with a series of unfortunate events while in Colorado, from wage theft to eviction, including getting his license canceled after being pulled over. He adds language barriers made the encounter with police worse.
Everything just got so complicated, and that's why we have made the decision to leave back to Mexico.
But if there's any silver lining, it's his 9-year-old daughter being able to learn the English language in 2 years. She says she appreciates the time she spent in Colorado, but is happy to leave.
I'm not sad because I'm going to see my family over there.
I also asked Gerardo if he thinks there's still an American dream.
Well, for the people that have established themselves here, yes. But for those arriving now, well, it's very complicated.
He adds he doesn't recommend people leave their country of origin for the U.S., at least not right now.
You're going to struggle a lot. If you don't speak English or have documents, you won't have work.
Bro was a truck driver, Bill. A truck driver. And he didn't even know English, couldn't communicate with law enforcement when he got pulled over. Why is he driving a truck on our streets here in Colorado? What the? This is like an accident waiting to happen. I don't get it. This is the exact guy that absolutely needs to leave. You can't speak our language, and we're letting you drive around on our streets with our families. Time to go home.
Yeah, see, the thing is that I can see being able to navigate street signs and roadways and not being a native speaker. Again, if you recognize those signs, roadways, and understand what the rules are. We don't know. The big question I've got is who hired him? And what was the specific job? Because again, if he is not fluent in English, but through Spanish, you can ask him, what's your maximum speed limit? Do you understand these rules? You could go through something that would show a basic understanding, and I'm not talking over the road. I'm assuming short-term delivery driver, something like either you're in and again, I don't want to, I'm not going to say let's say a company delivery van. You're in a company, like the big, like the Ford white vans that, all the kidnappers use to take the kids. I'm using it on purpose, sorry. The Ford vans. You're looking at those, or are you doing something like you're taking the load, but you would need somewhat of a CDL or larger license to do something like going from the warehouse at Safeway to the stores? I'm curious what the job is. My guess is that he is that short delivery driver driving the van, because those jobs don't require a specialized license and would be easier to get. But I have a lot of questions about what the hiring process was, and especially because he's undocumented. And so was there a background check? Was there an I-9 verification? Did this person, like our Des Moines superintendent, slide through for whatever reason? I've got a lot of questions as to how the person was employed and what they were doing. I know people that have gone and driven in other countries, not being able to speak the native language, but studying street signs and rules beforehand, and they understood. So I don't know what this guy's situation is, but like you outlined, Jeff, I got a lot of questions about the safety and possible problems here.
Well, as Janet points out, he's already such a bad driver. He got pulled over in the first place because he had that encounter with police and lost his driver's license, and in part couldn't communicate with the police. But that's just classic state of Colorado. Here's a guy who gets because you're allowed to. In Colorado, you're allowed to have a driver's license if you're not here legally. What? Okay, so there's so much here. This entire situation I look at and I'm like, wow. All right, this is a whole disaster, okay? Because remember, Bill, we went down and talked to the illegal immigrants that were in the apartment complexes, okay? And there's a lot of human suffering happening there, in part because they bought into the lies that America was open. So they traveled through 5-6 countries, assaulted. If you're a woman, you're assaulted the entire way here. It is hell. And then you get here, guess what? Country's not fully open to you. There was a sense of betrayal. We ran into them at those folks. $36,000 they paid. $36,000 they paid a smuggler to bring them to the United States, and have spent 3 years paying the debt back. Like, you got your family together, you paid a coyote smuggler $36,000, you come all the way to America, you have to spend 3 years paying it back, and then you run into all of these problems like eviction, wage theft, which is a real serious issue I've run into talking to illegal immigrant representatives. Like, the attorneys oftentimes are crooks. Wages don't have to be paid because you're not here legally. They get evicted. He loses his driver's license. So this was a disaster from front to back coming here illegally. And I go back to what ICE has often said, is that clarity is kindness. We have set up clear rules. Here's how you become an American. If you follow these rules, and yes, it takes a lot of time, and yes, you may not be able to get this. There's no guarantee you're going to become an American citizen. But if you follow these rules, guess what? You're not paying $36,000 to a smuggler, having to pay it back for 3 years, being evicted, dealing with wage theft, dealing with corrupt immigration attorneys. There's a lot there that's just a lot of human suffering. It's terrible.
There's a lot of human suffering there, but also look at the math involved. And what I'm saying is $36,000 or $30,000 to the coyote. And the idea of coming here and can you pay that back in less than a decade? Chances are you probably could. And that's where I always go back to the idea that our immigration system actually is an incentivization for you to come in here illegally, because that family made the decision that we can float the 30 G's in a loan to a coyote and pay it back, and that would be quicker than actually navigating the immigration process that would get us to the country legally. It was more efficient and was more expeditious to do it that way because of the system that we have set up. And so, of course,
do you think it worked out,
it.
though? I mean, they dealt with wage theft, evictions, couldn't speak the language, lost his driver's license. It all collapsed. He said the American dream's not here for people that do it the way he did.
Yeah. And well, here's the thing, and this is the thing that is most important in the conversation. I'm going to talk to the phone in just a second. I'll get to you. Just hang with me. The thing that I think is most important in this is he's going home because wait for it, work has dried up. He was willing to go underneath the radar and stuff and deal with the ICE enforcement. But the thing that I keep hearing is the work has dried up. And Jeff and I have made this argument on the show before. This is a supply and demand issue. If you start using I-9 and you have enforcement on the employers where it becomes a detriment for them to employ the illegal, the work dries up and the illegals are not here. This is at the core supply and demand. We could quadruple the amount of ICE agents and activities in this country tomorrow, and we still would only make a tiny dent in the illegals that everybody wants to get out of the country that voted for Donald Trump. But if you shut off the supply of jobs, you've seen more people, from what I've seen in the studies so far, more people are going home because the jobs are drying up, not because of the enforcement. If you had to give pools of both, the number of people that have been deported is not as large as the number of people that have voluntarily left.
Right.
And the motivation there isn't we're afraid of getting picked up. It's the jobs aren't here. I can't make the money.
It's in part.
It's supply and demand.
He says, when asked, was it worth it? Is the American dream still alive? This illegal immigrant, who's now packing up his family and leaving and going back to Mexico, says, I don't recommend it because you're going to struggle a lot. If you don't speak English or have documents, you won't have work. So is this a good news story, Bill?
A little of both, honestly, because I think there is some stuff in there. One, I do think it's a good news story because of the jobs drying up. I think that is the best way to enforce immigration, and I think that we need to do things with visas and temporary farm worker visas and stuff to get people back into the fields, and we can do construction worker. I think that is the best path forward. The other thing that I think is a positive in this is the daughter. In 2 years, she was fluent in English. That's the assimilation everybody who complains about these immigrants always brings up. They don't come here and assimilate. We've seen over and over again by second generation, they become native speakers, and it is always that second generation that has to help the first. That has happened with immigration since the dawn of this nation. That's normally the path. That happened with the Dutch, happened with the Germans, happened with the Chinese. That happened. And so that's kind of the process that is going to happen. And this family, regardless of their immigration status, was doing that. This daughter had assimilated. So she was doing what we always ask and always complain about. These families aren't. She is. You heard her speaking fluent English in there, and then she's fluent. And in 2 years, that's fantastic. And the fact that, again, as much as I throw rocks at our educational system, you got this girl fluent in English in 2 years. Thank you. That's an accomplishment. I don't think she probably do math. Probably sucks at math because we don't do math very well. But I'm just saying, not saying that our educational system has done wonderfully, but here's a point where, yeah, it did succeed. But, yeah, I also had some big questions.
And we paid for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. It's a good thing. We want them to assimilate. Yes.
It was a good thing that we paid for the person that illegally crossed our border and brought their family here, to the tune of paying $36,000 to an illegal immigrant, that their daughter got an education.
Yes. Yeah, I'm fine with that. Yes. Personally, I'm fine with that. I am.
Well, I'm not. All right. We've got lots of phone calls, lots of text messages coming in. It's working, folks. Bottom line, it's working. Trump's closed the border. He's got the ICE raids going. Illegal immigrants can't find jobs. They are leaving. They are self-deporting. We don't have to pay for it. They're getting out of this country. It's going to open up more opportunities for Americans. It's going to reduce, to my point, the tax burden on all of us to pay for these services. This is a good news story. Immigrant families leaving Colorado to return to Mexico. Join the conversation. 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law Text line at 720-819-5115. All right, let's talk Guy Reese. We've had a fantastic experience with the people at Guy Reese. They have an incredible selection of Hunter Douglas custom blinds, shades, and shutters. My wife and I went and sat down with their personal design consultant. They walked us through all the different options. And there are a lot of blind options out there, okay? Shades, shutters, so many different options. And then once we kind of picked the range that we wanted, they came out to our house, brought samples to our house, brought color samples as well. So we got to see what it was going to look like in our home, what was going to best fit directly in our home. You can get your own personalized in-home consultation on everything from blinds, shades, and shutters, Hunter Douglas, to paint, to home decor. They will help you turn your house into a beautiful place for your family. Go visit GuyReese.com. That's GUIRYS.com. GUIRYS.com. GuyReese.com. And get that expert advice right in your own home. All right. Phone lines hot. Text messages hot. We'll continue. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
Headline out of CBS 4, immigrant family in Colorado deciding to return to Mexico as work dries up here. Bro was a truck driver, lost his license actually because he couldn't communicate with law enforcement after being pulled over. Guy was driving around on our streets, lost his license. And then this family had spent $36,000 paying smugglers to get him up here. They can't get any work. It's been a disaster. They've endured wage theft, eviction, job loss, so they're done. They're heading back. Is this what it's all about? Self-deportations. You had millions of people coming into this country using our services, making things difficult. And the mandate during the last election was get the border closed and deal with illegal immigration. And people are self-deporting. ICE isn't driving these people out. Is this a win? Let's go to the phone lines. Jim, Denver. Good morning, Jim. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. I've watched this yo-yo of legal aliens coming back and forth since definitely 2008. These guys, they self-deport when the employers stop giving them money on a weekly basis because they're the cheapest labor that can be found in the hemisphere. So, but once this is over, once they get the money taps turned back on, because see the government spending, according to the Federal Reserve, actually stopped increasing in 2022. It didn't go down, but it didn't go up as well. So that means there was less money available to the public and the employers to hand out to illegals. But once this is over and they get the printing presses ramped back up, the employers, there's nothing to keep them from doing exactly what they've been doing since the 80s when we had those 6 amnesties under the Great Conservative. Nothing to stop them.
You don't think times have changed? That people have had enough? I mean, the city of Denver, for instance, cutting services to its own citizens, laying off its own employees to fund illegal immigrants to the tune of $356 million. Do you think people have kind of woken up to the idea that this wasn't this great economic boon that it promised to be? Otherwise, the city of Denver would have been a better financial situation, and they're ready to let these people head back home.
No, we've stopped having babies. We have birth rate issues just like much of the rest of the world. Now, the young, cheapest labor that we have in this country, they're going back home. And now what the employers and the industry groups are going to do is they're going to build more factories on the Mexico side of the border because they've got the cheapest labor that they can get because we sent them all back. So it continues to occur. It's economics. It's the closest thing we have to free markets. Okay, we can't persist as a nation acting like we're union members that say buy American and hire Americans, and then we stop having babies after this massive 80 million person baby boom after World War II. It's over. Soon we're going to have 10,000 people hitting the graveyard a day, and the economics of this is ongoing. We've witnessed it since there were 10,000 people entering the workforce a day in the 1970s.
Right. Jim, I appreciate the perspective.
These people don't need to be called. They don't even need to be called illegal aliens. We might as well just refer to them as business subsidies, because a third of the businesses, somewhere between a third and 2/3 of the businesses, would never have opened their doors in the first place if they didn't have the world's cheapest labor at their fingertips.
Jim, appreciate the call. Thanks so much. Jim's line will be open, 303-696-1971. Rather fatalist approach.
Yeah, and part of it being that, the other thing that I don't think we've realized is that by moving the less expensive illegal workers out, that makes the American workers more expensive. And that's just because of supply and demand. When you constrain labor market, it means the existing worker is going to get more expensive. That's great for wages, but that also means that some of your products are going to get more expensive and your transportation costs are more expensive. And so when you tack that on to existing tariffs, And again, just take a side note for a second. I just saw a study a couple of days ago that talked about they think that pricing from a bunch of CFOs across the country, that about 1/3 of current price increases are related to tariffs. And they're planning on rolling out the rest of those price increases over the next 12 to 18 months. So they're expecting 1/3 in total price increases this year, and they've already built in a 25% price increase on all of us by next year because of this. And now we're constraining labor costs.
The market will respond.
And we're constraining labor costs.
Let's go to Jim in Littleton. Good morning, Jim. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Good morning, gents. You know what? He's just doing a fig leaf right now, Trump is, because think about it. If he was very serious, he would be doing pushing for E-Verify, which would shut this thing out completely. But he's not. He's keeping quiet on it because his big donors, his multi-million-dollar donors or billion-dollar donors, want to use that cheap labor for their hotels, for their casinos, and that's what they want to do. So he's going to allow that to go on because he wants to continue that money flow. He's not serious. E-Verify would take care of this in a New York minute.
Are you sure? Because I've
100%,
read that
100%.
a number of these meat processing, for instance, claim to have used E-Verify, but that the illegal immigrants were able to game the system. And so they used it, but that the checks through E-Verify, not that good.
Well, I agree with you. What about that guy that in Iowa that was an illegal? That was you guys were talking about. How did he get through this?
Yeah, I was curious about him, Jim, and the idea being that where you're going with this, that why isn't Trump or any politician coming down on that company and saying, hang on here, and maybe there could be, again, some pressure or some economic consequences on companies that do verify people that aren't who they say they are. If we'd go into those meatpacking companies Jeff was referring to, and all those people ran through, then you'd be going back to that E-Verify company going, excuse me, how did you process these people? And if it is the idea of, they're using somebody else's documents, and we've heard about that, where people that are expatriates, they go and they move to another country, then they will sell their identity, their name, their social security number. They don't need it necessarily anymore here, and they'll sell it and let you use it here in order to get access to this country. You could track down things like that. So, yeah.
I'm with you. How many of those IDs are from dead people, too?
Yeah.
But I don't know where you're getting that Trump doesn't want to use E-Verify.
Well, then why isn't he pushing it? Every time he's talking about ICE and going into the cities, why is he not pushing? It's a two-prong war, if that's the way you want to look at it. E-Verify will really tampen that down. And then the other thing is ICE going into the cities and taking care of it. Here's another thing I want to address with you guys. I have two kids that have graduated. You know what? And this is a government, so you cannot dispute it. 55 million on H-1Bs from other countries here. 55 million. Okay, that's people that are now taking our kids' jobs. And my kid is a computer science engineer. He's struggling. You know, the only place these kids can get jobs because of that, you have to be under government security, and therefore those people can't work there. They have tanked the computer science area by using these people, getting them in here.
Well, you know what, Jim?
You said 55 million have H-1B
55 million. That's a government stat, too.
I'm looking at government stats around 700,000.
No, it's 55 million. Trump even tweeted on it. He said, this is unbelievable. 55 million. It came out 2 weeks ago.
Well, the thing is, and we'll look at that number, Jim, the other part, though, is that Elon Musk has, in some of his conversations online, said that American computer programmers just aren't good enough. He can't run his Tesla and his SpaceX and everything else. He says he can't do it. He has to have those foreigners because we're dumb.
He doesn't want to pay them. He doesn't want to pay them what they need to be paid.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
That's a big-ass lie. That's just a big lie.
I agree with you because he brings them in at a lower cost. So he gets the computer engineers he needs, but he gets them at a lower cost because of the H-1Bs. Yeah, he does. You're right.
So you guys
what about Microsoft? They just fired 1,000 computer science engineers. Microsoft did, and what they brought them in, foreigners.
Would you guys support that one? Trump adding a $100,000 requirement to those H-1B visas?
I think you know what? That's a great idea. I think that anything to stop these H-1Bs is a great idea. Heck, Amazon Amazon is abusing it just because they can have cheap labor, so they don't have to unionize the people.
Yeah,
Amazon's abusing
the thing
it.
for
They're
me
the
is
number
that
one people.
I don't like the idea of making it $100,000 because then you're just getting rich people that have access to the system. I disagree with that. I would constrain where the H-1B visas and how they can be used. That's where I would go. I would look at the idea of there can only be. I would restrict the number of computer programmers and software engineers. I would restrict that. I would look at the lower. I would expand it in the lower incomes and the lower workers. I would restrict the top end workers. That's where I would go. I would restrict.
Why? Why would you restrict the top end workers and bring in the lower income workers?
Because those are degreed people. That's why. Those are degreed people.
Isn't that who you
paid
want?
for their degree.
No, I want American degree people. That's why I'm trying to constrain. What I'm doing is I'm constraining. And again, I understand what I'm doing here.
You just said you want the lower income people.
Let me explain. I don't think I explained it properly well. And let me walk through it again. This is what I would like to do. For the H-1B visas, I would restrict some of the top end jobs, things like computer software engineers, programmers, stuff like that. I would restrict the supply there, and I would expand the supply on the bottom end because I want to create a demand for the American software engineer, the American programmer. And so if I constrain the supply, the demand for the American worker is going to be greater. I would allow the H-1Bs at the lower end if we're looking at number of workers and labor force. But I think it's okay. Personally, if I was given the magic wand, I would constrain that because I would force the hiring and the demand for American workers at the top end. I don't want the foreigner coming in here to pay $100,000 and take my computer software engineering job. No, I want an American guy doing the computer software engineering job and getting that six-figure salary, not the guy that had the ability to pay six figures just to get here to get the six-figure salary. Yeah, that's why.
Exactly. That's exactly, and that's what these companies are abusing it.
Yeah,
they're not paying them what the market value is because they're threatening America. They're keeping the market artificially suppressed. That's what's going on with these big corporations.
Jim, appreciate the call.
Appreciate you,
Thanks so much. Jim's line will be open 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. Lots of text messages here.
So many. You guys are great this morning. It's hard to keep up. It's fantastic.
Less illegal immigration will improve the legal immigration system, so I think that's a good story. Elon Musk and Tesla are working on robot technology that will solve the cheap labor crisis.
No, it won't. No.
You don't think so?
No, not what he's working on. Not at all. Those Optimus robots or anything else? No. Part of it is the design. And this
what
is
does
why.
that mean?
He's working on bipedal robots, meaning they have two legs and two arms. That's
Instead
stupid.
of wheels?
The idea being that if you are going to make a robot that is going to perform a specific function, etc., many times our human biology is the least efficient and the worst way to do that. There's so many other ways you would create a system and a robot to perform certain functions. This is just about having an automaton, and that's fine. Elon can chase that, but the idea that if you're going to have, here's the thing: if I'm going to design a robot that is going to, say, cook burgers at a restaurant, I'm not designing a bipedal robot that has to walk and has two arms. I'm doing something else. If I have to create a robot that is going to build a piece of machinery, it's not going to look like a human. That's the problem that I think Elon's running into. He's promised the sky, as he always does, but he's got the wrong form.
Nothing is going to prevent Elon from using programmers remotely in their home countries. This is Jason in Denver. Then the employers will not pay U.S. income tax and won't spend any of their salaries in the U.S. Others saying that this critique of immigrants taking our jobs is what's been said about Italians and Irish and Chinese. It's just the same old. It's always the same critique.
They're just speaking a different language this
Well,
time.
I think the numbers are what made the big difference here. This isn't the same numbers of people that came over with the Italians or the Irish or the Chinese versus the tens of millions that came over, and then the impact that had on the system is finally. I think it's a different conversation.
I think you'd have to look at the percentage of the population at the time, because that's the only way. Because math numbers just get bigger. We just have more people, so you'd have to look at what is the percentage of the population that is coming here that is allegedly illegal, and then what is the percentage of migration based on the Germans, Irish, Chinese. I have no idea. I'm not saying yes, no, right, wrong, anything else. I think that you'd have to do the math based on per capita population and percentages, and I have no idea what those numbers look like. You could absolutely be right,
That's
Jeff.
one way to look at it, but then you also have to look at the amount of money and the impact that's had on the system. So, for instance, when the Irish were coming to Denver, where their major cut to services and cuts to employees to provide those types of services to the Irish when they came here. So part of the equation here is that the services provided to illegal immigrants is vastly different than it was when the Chinese arrived, than when the Poles arrived, or the Irish or the Germans. What the government provided for them and the burden that was on the taxpayer is radically different than those times as well. All right, we'll continue. We'll get to these phone calls you guys are listening to. The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Phone lines hot, text messages hot. Headline coming from CBS 4: Immigrant family in Colorado has decided we're done. It's too hard to work here. We're heading back to Mexico. Is it a good thing? Text message here. So Bill wants to depress low-income wages even further by using visas to expand that supply and increase income for higher earners even more by restricting that supply.
The thing that I look at is for me, it's supply and demand. That there are, while you are correct, that does provide downward pressure on wages at that lower rung. There are more of those individuals. And so that's the balance that unfortunately I am willing to take on. I understand that it depresses wages, and I'm not 110% excited about that, but I'm looking at the number of available people that can fill the positions, and we simply have a larger pool of prospective Americans than we have at the higher rungs as far as computer programmers. And so that's it. That's where I would start. Now, later on, I would be filtering out the lower ones as well. But that's where I would at least start. And it is an imperfect, inelegant solution that I'm not 100% happy with it. But sometimes, in order to get better, you got to take your medicine.
All right, let's go to the phone lines. Mike, Denver. Good morning, Mike. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Morning.
How are you guys doing?
Good. How are you, man? What's on your mind?
I've got several things beyond what I spoke with you, Bill, on the phone.
Yeah, cool. Go for it.
To start with, my wife is an immigrant. She came over from the Soviet Union and had to take ESL, English Second Language classes.
Okay,
So
Mike,
she
I want
has
to stop you right there.
sympathy.
When
Sorry.
did she come over? I'm just curious. Again, this is fascinating that she came out of the Soviet
80s.
bloc. 80s.
80s.
How old was she when she came
Yeah.
over here?
She was 12, 13.
Oh, wow. Dude, you and I could talk for hours about that. I'm fascinated. Okay, continue. Thank you for indulging me there. I'm
okay.
really curious about that.
And-
Thank you. Go ahead.
You bet. And then the second part, before I took on the job I have now, delivering equipment to job sites, I worked in a pension plan for a school system where I retired a bilingual teacher who had to have his son, so retired. So that meant he had over 20 years of service in the school system. His son had to come and translate for him. So you tell me how effective a bilingual teacher he was. One more thing on retirement plans. Another company I worked for, a company in Texas that we worked on their plans. They, we have to audit the plans each year. They had about 15, 20 employees that all had the same Social Security number. So
I've seen that trick.
This was
I've seen that
probably
trick before.
E-Verify. But anyway, back what I originally called about delivering equipment to job sites. I recently delivered to a place north of the border here, and there was no shortage of non-English speaking people, shall we say, and job sites in general. ICE wanted to, lease all the buses they could get a hold of in Denver. They could go around all these job sites and be taking people to send back home. There's no shortage.
And thanks to the
of,
U.S. Supreme
illegals.
Court, they can continue to do that.
Yes.
Thank you, Mike.
So, but it was, yeah. Anyway, thanks for your time, guys.
I appreciate the
Hey,
call.
thanks.
Mike's line will be
Appreciate that, Mike.
open, 303-696-1971. Text us at 720-819-5115. Marcus, we'll get to you next. We'll continue the conversation. Plus, are we on the verge of a peace deal between Israel and Hamas? We'll talk it all. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.